Bashir thinks finale and toddies are a good cure for fake coughs. The Pennington School in New Zealand offered Jake a writing fellowship, and for a moment there, Sisko thought Ducat was put in charge of the Cardassian ministry, the reputation of Bajoran fairy tales. Hey everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule. This is Cirroc Lofton.
It was kind of a tongue twister. You did pretty well on that one.
Yeah, I was second guessing myself. I was like, am I even going to be able to say this? Right in the middle of it.
I didn't interrupt you. You did it. You had it.
Today we are reviewing Deep Space Nine Season 3, Episode 22, Explorers, directed by Cliff Bole, written by Renee Echevarria, and a story by Hilary Bader, no relation to Supreme Court Judge. That's a Ruth Bader Ginsburg reference.
All right.
All downhill from here. I will also say that I had the biggest laugh in this episode so far in all 3 seasons. I can think of only one other time that I maybe laughed as hard or close to it, but this was the biggest laugh I had.
Really?
We'll talk about that. I mean, stay tuned for that. Am I right? We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Very quickly, if you'd like to support our hilarious and fun and star-studded show, feel free to go to patreon.com/the7th-rule and become a part of our team. And if you want a free way to, a free method to support us, just please be sure to subscribe to our channel, hit the bell icon, share it with your friends, follow us on Twitter, do all that kind of stuff. It's free and it means the world to us. And with that, let's talk about this hidden gem of an episode. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a great episode. Really a turning point, at least for my character.
Mm-hmm.
But I really enjoyed this episode. One of the things that popped out at me was my age. I felt like I'm at a point where I'm getting older and I'm losing the childhood Jake, going into like the young man Jake.
Right. Yeah, I noticed the same thing, that like just watching this episode, it felt like, I did make a note of it, that it felt like this was the last time we see you as a child. Like you just looked like you were just flipping from child to young man, just right there in that episode. That's weird.
Yeah, it's weird. And then, so I don't know how they were able to time it like that, but it times well with the storyline of the episode. And
you're right. Yeah.
This whole father-son bonding moment, it's kind of like Jake having to pivot from, he's pivoting into having his own identity, his own life, right? His girlfriend's coming in, he's writing without anybody knowing. So he's had his own like ideas of what he wants to do without really consulting with anybody. So he's starting to find his own identity, he's starting to find himself, whether with relations to dating, whether it comes to like profession, career, or studies, what he wants to learn and occupy his time with. So all of those storylines kind of coincide with what I visually see when I see myself kind of looking more mature. And I don't know if I'm taller, but I feel like it looks like I'm taller in this episode than I was in previous episodes. Mm-hmm. And maybe even closer to my final height that I'm going to be at. So I just see a lot of growth in myself in this particular episode, and it was really congruent with the storyline.
Yeah, that's a really good point about that you just happen to, in this strange way, look like you're just making that shift from child to young man at the same time as you are making that switch in the storyline. I mean, this is when you've made your first kind of adult decision as to what you want to do with your life, or that new path. And before that, you were kind of taking the path of Starfleet, as we've discussed with Robert Hewitt Wolf and Ira Stephen Bear. And this was when they decided that your character would make that right turn and go in a totally different direction.
Yeah, and he gave us a lot of background on why he wanted to do that, because it was personally something that was
right.
He experienced growing up as a son of a military father. So we got to see that, but we saw so much other things. I mean, really, what is great about this episode is that it isolates the father-son away from the ship, away from the other characters, away from other kind of distractions, and really puts them in a one-on-one kind of, let's deal with this father-son issue. Let's handle this together. Let's experience this this moment. And it just reminds me now as a father, I have these same kinds of moments with my daughter where it's the two of us doing something, and I'm enjoying it, but soon there will be a choice for her to not participate, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right now we're at a stage where,
tough.
Tough. You don't want to eat that? That's tough. I guess you're not going to eat. Or if you don't want to go there, then you can wait in the car, but we're going there. But eventually, there'll come a time when she'll have decisions to make, whether she wants to hang out with her friends or go do something else. And then there won't be so much of, a moment of being able to just hang out with her whenever I want, So this is that kind of a moment. You see, Sisko is disappointed that Jake is turning him down initially. He wants to have this moment. He wants to spend time with him. And then Jake eventually does come around and see the value in it. And I think that's one of the great things about it. And then there's so much other small symbolism that they actually include. You see Sisko, for example, for this first time having a goatee, right?
This was also part of the change in characters between the two of you. And yeah, this kind of spoke to what this episode really stood for, which was more than just these little stories, but this is the change in right now. These few episodes, we're seeing a change in all of the characters. We're seeing a change in the storylines. We're seeing a change in what's happening. And that's another one, which is Sisko's goatee coincides with the beginning of the change in Sisko as a character as well. It's kind of changing his physical appearance to match the type of character he's becoming as well. At least that's how I took it.
Yeah, and I think that in this particular case, the title of the episode is perfectly suited because it is called Explorers. And in this particular episode, you see Sisko exploring a new look with the goatee, right? Hey, what do you think? How do you like it?
Right.
So he's starting to explore. Jake is exploring himself and his creativity and his writing and
his future.
His future. And he's offering an even further exploration into this woman that he has pegged out for his dad, right? He picked out for his dad, this freighter captain. So he's asking his dad to explore that option and explore where that could take him. So I feel like Explorers is really just like suited for this episode title.
Absolutely. And not to mention that they were actually physically out exploring, as well,
right.
But that's more on the nose. This was the things you're talking about, the things that really add depth to that title. And Star Trek has always been really good about titles that work not just with one thing, but with the theme of multiple things within an episode. And just real quick before I move on to that next broader point, I did want to say that when Sisko tells Jake, well, if you can't go, you can't go, I almost felt like there was subtle wording in there kind of reminding Jake that he can go. He's like, well, oh, your girlfriend's oh, well, if you can't go, you can't. It was almost like a subtle, almost like a passive way of saying, oh, it's not like you have a job or,
right.
Or any, it's because I guess, well, if you can't go, yeah. I don't know if that's how they meant it, but that's how I took it. When he said that, he was graciously saying, well, obviously you can't go then, I just built this thing, once in a lifetime thing, no big deal,
Yeah, just, built it from scratch with a bunch of materials laying around for 3 weeks, handmade and everything. But, It's not a big deal if you don't want to spend 3 days with your dad to go.
No, that's fine. Go play Dom Jot with that Bjorn or whatever.
Go play Dom Jot.
But the broader point I had about this episode, it's a real gem to me, because when I first started watching Star Trek in this series a little later, as a kid or a younger fellow, like, I watched it for the aliens. I watched it for the sci-fi. I watched it for, the Romulans are fighting with the Klingons, and the Klingons are, and then there's the secret assassin, like all the cool, fun, interesting things. But that's what I got out of it. That's what I enjoyed. That's what, I got everything I wanted in that regard. But when I rewatch it now, what I'm really liking, because those elements got me to fall in love with the characters, because I'm watching these cool stories and I'm falling in love with the characters within those stories. Now that I'm rewatching it, I'm finding that these kind of episodes are the ones I appreciate more, because they're really only about the characters. Nothing happened in this episode, and I loved it, because it was just about, nothing happened. Like, there was it was just, but it was great, because we just got to learn about the characters. There were moments for the characters and points in time that you look back at, as moments that changed, something in our lives or whatever, and that's why this was such a gem to me, along with others, because it really gave me more depth on the characters that I love,
Yeah, and that depth for me, when I'm watching it, I'm thinking of, okay, so Starfleet is basically, it's a lifestyle, but it's really a job, right?
Yeah.
It's like so when they're on the bridge, they're at work. They have a mission to accomplish. They have protocols. They have orders. They're at work, essentially, right? Mm-hmm. They get paid for all intents and purposes. So they're at work. And what we get to see when they're doing these, battles, and they're in the middle of these wars, that's them in their work space, in their work zone.
Right.
And one thing that I enjoy about seeing episodes like this is seeing them outside of their work zone, still in the same circumstance of being in a space station in 400 years from now, but still, now this is your non-work self. This is your off-work version of yourself. And we got that with O'Brien and Bashir. A lot of them just, they're
getting drunk.
A lot of them getting drunk. Right? And so that's them not at work. And then Sisko, is always having to solve problems and walk around and give orders and, and take inventory of things. But this time he's like, you see him doing his own thing. It's like your dad working on the Chevy in the garage, doing some mechanical work on some car or motorcycle in the garage. That's like his time, right?
Right.
Like he goes to work all week, but now he wants to work on this engine or whatever it is. And so to me, this was Sisko doing his own, like, working on the car garage moment and finding the time to bond with his son at the same time. So I really like the stepping outside of your work persona and getting into your usual self.
Right. And the reason that was so entertaining and interesting, all the kudos goes to the writers and the actors for creating characters that we care about, to where nothing really needs to happen outside in the big world of the Federation, the Dominion, and all that stuff, for us to be really interested in what's going on the inside, just from character to character, just what they want to do with their lives, with their relationships, with father and son building something together, making jokes with each other, And by the way, when your character, when Jake was going to fix him up with the freighter captain, I had my finger on the trigger. I was like, is this Cassidy Yates' first NAM? Is this a non-appearance mention for her? But nope, they didn't say the name, so it doesn't. So I pulled my finger. I was like, all right, but I'm ready if you say the name. If he goes, I wasn't sure. I was like, is he going to be like, okay, fine, what's her name? But he didn't ask that. And then I thought, I wonder if the writers didn't even have a name yet for her. They just wrote it next week.
Interesting, because her name was changed. So
really,
it was a different name beforehand, right. And I think Penny came to the set and didn't want that name.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good thing they didn't name her yet, because she would have been committed to it.
Yeah, because then they'd have some splaining to do.
Yeah. So, but yeah, they did. They almost gave her a Nan, and I actually wrote Morton down as a Nan before he was revealed to be in the episode.
Yeah.
I was a little bit disappointed. I was like, "Oh, he's in this one."
Yakking it up as he always does, chattering away.
Well, it's funny because Norm, it's such a play on, right? Cheers.
I always
Norm.
thought so. Yeah, I thought that was deliberate. Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be. But they always, when they're mentioning Morton, they always say Morton said.
Yeah.
That's the funniest thing. It's always Morton said this, Morton said that, Morton said this. So as soon as they came in with Morton said, I was like, all right, he's not going to be in this episode. It's just, a non-appearance mentioned. But sure enough, they actually came back around to him, which I liked.
Yeah, lots of great stuff to talk about with this episode. We've got a few minutes before we take our quick break, but I do want to mention the funniest moment in 3 seasons to me. I actually had to pause it, not pause it, but to pause it, because I was laughing and I had to get up, and I even applauded. I think I was ridiculous. I was embarrassing myself.
Okay.
And
was there a sofa?
What it was when at the beginning when Lita, the first appearance for Lita, Chase Masterson, our good friend, and thank goodness that they used her for more than just one episode. When she comes over and she talks to Julian, and then Dax shows up, being the cock blocker that she is, and she's like, "Oh, hey, blah 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 blah," she's jumping on him about being ridiculous or whatever, and he says, "Oh, I've got that thing that whatever that you wanted. I've got that early. What the heck was it? It was anyway, I don't remember what it was.
I remember.
I've got that something report that you asked for, something, and he holds it over for her, and it says "Go away" in all capital letters. That's just, I forgot. I'm like, that is a good start. I mean, Star Trek doesn't usually go into that kind of humor. It almost seems like kind of bro-ish humor or college humor kind of thing. But that was funny. That got a round of applause from me because
I missed that moment. That's funny. So what you stood up and clapped for, I didn't even see.
It was so funny.
I heard that this exchange. I just didn't read what was on the paper. Is that what it said?
Yeah, he held the pad to her. He says, "Oh, I've got that report, blah 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 blah." And she says, "Oh, really?" And he types something on it and he hands it to her, and it's it shows that all it says, the whole thing is blank, just capital letters says "Go away." She goes, and that's why she goes, "Oh, okay, I've got a thing to get to over here."
Oh, I missed that. So that is classic. Yeah, that
was solid.
That's solid. Yeah. He was totally he's like, "I have a cough too."
Yeah.
He's so cheesy when he starts coming on
to
the girls.
That was the worst. Star Trek can be super funny. And that whole opening scene was brilliant. She's like, "Oh, I've been meaning to see you. I've had a cough." And he puts his hand on her back. "Cough for me." And she does. And she goes, "Is it serious, doctor?" I'm like, "Oh my God, you guys need a room or what?" Calm down. And he says, "No, but I need you to start treatment immediately." I'm starting to get a little cough myself. We should drink our toddies together.
Oh. Yeah, good thing they saved all the cheese for Bashir. He got all the cheese.
They should make a cheese called Bashir cheese, like Swiss cheese and cheddar cheese. And Bashir cheese is kind of it's kind of arrogant, but you kind of like it anyway.
It's good looking. It just talks bad. But no, did you see that also there was a moment where Sisko's building the sail ship behind you, and he's wearing his COVID mask. Did you see him?
Yeah. Well, good, and that's a good message to make. He's always very responsible when it comes to those kinds of situations.
No, when I saw that shield, when they saw the shield, I was like, oh, that's that was a COVID mask way before there was COVID.
I just heard Aaron's voice go, "Thank you for mentioning the shield."
Oh gosh, not the shield.
So we do have to jump to our break real quick. We're going to take that break. When we come back, we're going to go over very quickly like our trivioids, and then we're going to talk about Sisko and his shield and Aron and some really cool character arcs. It was a great episode to talk about. We'll see you in like half a second on the seventh rule. Well, welcome back to the seventh rule with Cirroc Lofton, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, hello.
And species of all kinds. We're talking about Explorers, the hidden gem of season 3 from Deep Space Nine, episode number 21. Very quickly, the trivioids that may or may not have made the cutting room floor. According to
I think it's episode 22, but I'm not sure.
Is it? I don't know anymore.
I think so.
According to the star charts, the most difficult part of the trip between Bajor and Cardassia would be getting through the Denorius belt. After that, it would be smooth sailing the rest of the way. That's a Sisko line, a Jake Sisko, I should specify. Bashir thinks Phenalian tea or Phenalian tea toddies are a good cure for fake coughs. I added fake in there because it's obviously fake. Dukat used to think the Celestial Temple was a Bajoran fairy tale. For a moment there, Sisko thought Dukat was put in charge of the Cardassian ministry for the reputation of Bajoran fairy tales. Jake isn't a big fan of zero-gravity rations, but that's all the ancient Bajorans had. And the Pennington School in New Zealand offered Jake a writing fellowship. None of those are too terribly funny, but very interesting and fun.
Yeah. Well, there's so many things in this episode. I mean, I can almost just talk about this episode, the little subtle things. And maybe there's some of these things are things that just popped up for the first time. Like, for example, I have a scene where I'm checking my messages when I come into the quarters.
Yeah.
And I say, computer, are there any messages for me? And the computer shows me the Pennington New Zealand school request, right? The letter of acceptance. But what was interesting to me is that I started the sentence out, computer, are there any messages for me? And it just made me think, Alexa, Siri, all of the computer, are there any messages for me devices that we've come up with since Star Trek has implemented this idea where you talk to this computer that's around you all the time, right? Mm-hmm. And it's just another subtle thing that I believe Star Trek is responsible for its existence in the popular culture. This kind of Alexa thing or Siri, all of these kinds of things, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, computer.
Computer. You know, just talking to a computer. In general, I just think it's just. I know it's simple, but it's just something that you don't really pay attention to conceptually and say, "Oh wow, this is just before there was an ability to actually do it."
Way before, yeah.
The other thing we touched on in this episode was the zero gravity bathrooms, or the bathrooms inside of this place.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of funny because I don't know any other moment where bathrooms were talked about, at least into this detail. Because people have often asked, where do you go to the bathroom on one of these places, right?
It's definitely been mentioned, yeah, as in asked by people, yeah.
Yeah, by a lot of fans and conventions have had the conversations, and I've heard it before throughout the years, but I didn't realize that we actually directly addressed a bathroom on this kind of a ship before. So that was fun for me.
I've seen schematics on the bridge of ships that show where the bathroom is, or like the head or whatever. But yeah, I've never actually heard it discussed. Which is strange. You never see they go, oh, red alert, and then Picard comes out of the bathroom and goes, oh, what's pulling up his pants. All right, or whatever. We've never seen that.
No, never seen it.
Odo saying, oh, where's Major Kira? And she'll be back. She's in the restroom. She'll be back in a couple minutes.
Number
She's
two.
always in the restroom.
Oh, number 1 or number 2?
And it's just goes it's kind of 1.5 right now. It's had a lot of brand.
Yeah, and it's funny because Sisko says to me, "You'll figure it out." Like all right, I'll just pull my pants down and just start.
See what happens.
See what happens. So that was kind of like, all right, I guess, you want to give me some instructions? No, you'll figure it out. All right. There was a moment also that I thought was kind of interesting. Sisko at one point says, "Do you hear that?"
Yeah.
And I say, "Hear what?" And he's like, "Not even the hum of an engine," right? And that just brought me back to us watching the animated Lower Deck series and their hums of engines that they were all going through, right? Hey, it sounds like this and sounds like that.
Right, which was the perfect conversation because we did just talk about that, about how every ship has that hum and this and that. And this is where I had a little nitpick with the directing because there actually was a hum added in post-production. Like if you listened, I listened and there was a hum of the ship. And I'm like, well, either Sisko is wrong or the director is wrong. But there is a hum on that ship right now and I'm hearing it. And I don't think there should have been that hum because it's a sail ship. There's no engine needed. You know what I mean? Like it's riding the solar winds or it's getting its energy from that. So I think maybe there should not have been a hum. And I think that that's what that scene meant to say, that there's not even, you're not hearing anything. Now, the way I excused it was I thought maybe I'm just hearing the solar winds or something like that. But even then, it's hearing something. But anyway, still the point was not lost on me that was a great scene. And we've all done that before.
Somebody should have told the post-production guy, no hum.
Don't be too eager this time. But we've all had that kind of moment where you go out camping or you go somewhere and you're just like, wow, there's like literally nothing, no sound. And you don't realize how many sounds envelop us in the world until you have that absence of sound.
Yes. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to just highlight really quickly was the fact that Sisko is wearing a vest that has a traditional African patterns on it. So it's a little shout out to the I can tell that that's an African fabric with the pattern work. Very well done. So shout out to Bob Blackman and whoever else helped design that particular vest. I think it was a one and done. I don't think he wore it ever again. But it's actually one of my favorite looks for Sisko. That African. If I had that vest, I'd wear it today. I mean, it's just like one of those kinds of things.
You know, when you look down when you were saying that, I was hoping you'd say, and so I drew it. I was like,
No, I did draw this though. I gave you a little. That's my solar sail ship right there. That's best I could do with it.
Wow, good job.
Yeah, it's there somewhere. But
I drew this one too.
Oh, very nice.
I added color, just real quick,
Just a little sketched it up. I liked. It was very subtle. But Odo had a line in this episode where he's telling Bashir that the Lexington had just docked.
Yeah.
And he goes through the whole thing, and then he looks over at Bashir and he says, "She's in Quarks."
Yeah, because I know you're wondering.
Yeah, like I already know you're wondering. I've already done the investigation. You're welcome. You don't have to go chasing around looking for her. She's in Quarks, and go find her and talk to her because I know that's what you want to do. And I just thought that was like, it shows how Odo is on top of what's going on, right?
Always,
like he's so aware of what's all the little conversations and stuff that are happening. And it also shows that he has feelings, right? Because he's like, go talk to her, man, and get it off your chest, go get her. So I like that. It was a very small, little subtle one-liner, but to me, it was effective just by showing me how on top of things Odo is and also how concerned he is for his friends.
Yeah, it's pretty cool for Renee to basically be told you have one work day this week. You got one scene, super easy, and by the way, it's a good one. Usually, if they just have like the one scene, it's kind of like where he goes like, "Oh, she's not here. I checked everywhere," or come in, USS Tallahassee or whatever it is. But this was actually like a fun, poignant, cool thing, and then he's off for the rest of the week. And the other character that showed the same kind of concern for Bashir, which is great because you have all these male characters that are worried about their buddy, right? So Odo shows a little bit of it. Obviously, O'Brien shows a lot of it because they're drinking together. And I think he says, oh, yeah, he couldn't tell him he loves him. So he just says, I don't hate you. Yeah, no, wait, actually, I think I took down like most of that conversation. O'Brien says, well, she either loves you or hates you. And Bashir says, isn't that something in between? And he says, you're not an in-between kind of guy. In other words, you're
either people love you or they hate you.
And then he says, I used to hate you when I first met you. And Bashir says, and now? He says, now I don't. And Bashir says, that really means a lot. And O'Brien says, I mean it from the heart. I really do not hate you.
Exactly.
Excellent. Perfect. Beautiful.
Yes, I love that. I thought it was great. And then they sang some song that ended with "Till we build Jerusalem in England's land" or something like that. And I was like, what is this song? I never heard it before.
I know. It's like, that must be a real song because there's no way they got those two guys to memorize that weird-ass song.
It had to be. I sorry, guys, I didn't do enough homework to find out what song that is, but it just kind of stood out. But there was also another moment that was kind of funny to me, and Sisko says to me, he says, hammock time.
Yes. And what did you think of when you saw that today?
I thought of hammer time.
Yeah. From Fremont, California, ladies and gentlemen.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
Dun, dun.
Super free.
So, yeah, I honestly thought it was hammer time because he said hammock time. And the way he said it was just exactly like MC Hammer would say hammer time.
And did you hear the line? Yeah, your response.
My line was, yo, which is like the only time I think yo has ever gotten away on Star Trek from.
I know.
Like,
there's no way that's on Star Trek except for in that episode.
Yo slide, like from Yo MTV Raps.
I'm like, was that improvised? Do you remember if they gave you that line?
It had to have been. There's no way
I feel like both of those were added on. I feel like both of those were.
There's no way Ira sat there or Renee sat there and wrote hammock time and yo. I'm pretty sure that we both ad-libbed that little extra into that.
Absolutely. Because especially what was this, like 95, right? So that was a few years after Hammer Time. But yeah, even the yo, when you said that, it reminded me of the part in Can't Touch This, or where everyone goes, it's Hammer Yo, MC Hammer Yo, and that part. I was like, wait, did they just drop not only just a hammock time but a yo right after it?
Yes, we got away with it. I don't know how, but we got away with it with hammock time. Yo,
that's beautiful.
It was kind of crazy, right? So I'm glad you picked up on it too, because I thought it was like, I was like, did I just say that? Did they let me say yo? DS9. I sure did. So I couldn't believe it. The other thing I thought was funny was when he was trying to hook his dad up with his, this freighter captain, and he's like, yeah, Dad, it's like I feel better if you had somebody special, because it's been over a year since your last date. A year. Like I re-emphasized it. It was just like, first of all, it's funny that Jake's sitting there counting the dates from the last time his dad got.
It's like, Dad, you need to get out of the house, man.
Yeah, you got to do something with yourself. That's the funny thing. I really enjoyed that kind of father-son moment, that bonding moment. But it's also funny because Jake, I think Sisko says something to him like, are you trying to give me advice? Are you trying to hook me up? And I says, well, yeah, just think just think of me as a guy. And I just could think of that, like how naive that is for a child to tell their parent, just think of me as some guy.
You'll never be some guy to me.
Yeah, there's no way I could just think of you as one of the guys. It's just not going to happen. But that was naive and kind of playful of Jake, though.
Yeah, and a little further in that conversation is when you say like, he says, how can you write about stuff that you don't have experiences in, or something like that? And then Jake says, well, how do you know I haven't? And then Sisko says like, well, you better not, or something to that effect. And my first thought was like, whoa, are we going naughty here? Like, what did he write about? Like, he's like, you better not, you 16-year-old, you better. But then he goes into the Maquis joke, and I'm like,
Maquis, yeah.
It's pretty good. It
was pretty good. And actually, I left, I thought it was a great moment where Jake kind of takes it seriously. Like, I can't tell you about that, And it was just like a good little zinger for his dad. But if you notice, his dad afterward tells him, "Hey, you know what? You're a great writer, and I think you should really do this." And then my response is, "Yeah, I'm thinking about it." And Sisko says, "Just do it." And it was just like another like
90s
90s slogan, just like just
on?
do it. So I was like, "Whoa!" So we got Hammock Time and Just Do It in the same episode, which is like pretty.
Yeah, it was special. Just kind of, and it was like when he was saying, who's the girl, and he's like, just straight up now, tell me, and then he was like pumping up his Jordans, and it was just like, I noticed it too. I felt like there was a lot of 90s stuff in there.
A little bit. There's a little bit, and it was also kind of cute that you see. So I was starting off earlier. I said Odo was worried about Bashir and concerned about his rectifying the situation with this
woman. By the way, right? I do want to excuse myself. I do realize, of course, that the Paul Abdul song and the Pump Up Shoes is more like 88 to 89 to 90. So everybody, I don't want the comments being full of like, that's not 90s, you nerd. But anyway, please continue.
So you just took 2 steps forward. And then
I took 2 steps back. Why do we come together, Cirroc?
I don't know. Opposites attract.
Yeah.
All right. That's all we got here, folks. This is going to get better, I promise. But yeah, so you had Odo worried about his buddy. You had O'Brien, drinking with his buddy, tells him, he doesn't hate him. And then you had, Quark. And Quark is, I thought gave another line, which was revealing for him. He says, Morn gives me 3-to-1 odds that you're going to, stumble out, throw out a bunch of stumble words and fail miserably. And then he says something like, I bet that your charm is going to win her over, or something to that. I'm betting your charm will take you further.
I was waiting for the joke after that, but it didn't come. We're like, okay.
No, he was actually betting on his charm, And I thought that was another kind of positive reinforcement of a friend kind of saying, don't worry, you'll make it through this. Don't, you won't be nervous and bomb. Your charm will kick in and she'll like you. And I thought in all those cases, whether it was Quark, O'Brien, or Odo, they all had like a kind of a pick-me-up for Bashir.
That's a good point. They were all rooting for him, weren't they?
Right.
But it's kind of funny, too, that, like, how come none of them were rooting for the girl? Like, because presumably, they didn't know this, they found out later that wasn't true, but they're thinking this girl doesn't want anything to do with him. So why don't they root for the girl to, like, be like, well, hopefully he'll leave her alone. Leave her. She obviously doesn't like you. Right. Leave her, but they're like, go get her. Come on. Force her to pay attention to you. But of course, it's good that he did, obviously, because then we find out about the mix-up. And that was a really good explanation. That totally works. That, that was solid. Good job, Star Trek. That works as a good explanation.
The Andorian mix-up, the Andorian party mix-up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
Like they just said, oh, that's Dr. Bashir. And then she looks over and sees him talking to the Andorian. Now, of course, in my notes, what did I put? an Andorian named Julian. That's the one part that was like, she didn't.
You don't buy that.
Yeah, she was like, oh, Julian, an Earth name. Bashir, clearly an Earth name. Sounds like an Andorian. I'm going to go with that. Certainly not the human with next to the Andorian, but whatever.
Right.
It works for a good mix-up. It's fine.
Right. No, I get that part. They also brought back this one, they do this occasionally. They bring back stuff from a few episodes back, right?
Right.
And in this instance, they brought back the whole he cheated. He couldn't understand the difference between whatever it was on that test that he took.
I didn't write it down this time. In that episode, I did, and it was one of the trivioids, but I didn't write it down. Preganglionic something?
Preganglionic and postganglionic nerve fiber or something like that, right? So, but they brought that back. So, I mean, just once again, the writers just bringing a little thing that was kind of it was a big deal in the episode because I think the whole episode was about cheering up Bashir, right? Because he was supposed to be nominated for the award. And he didn't want the award, and that's when we found out that he was, he gave the wrong answer purposefully on the test.
Too much pressure.
Right. So I just thought that was interesting that they kind of recycled some of that old stuff back in there. They also brought in a lot of these tachyon. I keep hearing tachyon everywhere. Tachyon particles, tachyon eddies. And it's just, I can't.
It's kind of tacky.
It's a little tachyon.
If you were going in that direction, I'm sorry that I ruined your joke. But if
I set you up right there, I think that was a good setup. That was an inadvertent lob. But you know what is interesting that I there's so many like things in this episode, but the one thing that I also thought that was kind of jumped out at me as well is that I don't remember anybody kind of pointing this out. That is that Jake shows his aspirations and ambitions to be a writer.
Yeah.
Just like Benny Russell was a writer in the Far Beyond the Stars episode. So he is following after his father in an alternate.
Wow, that's so meta, dude.
See that?
That's pretty good. That's pretty
I brought that back around.
Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, as somebody that has dabbled in writing myself, writers' favorite subject is other writers. That's kind of like the number one thing that writers write about is Joe Smith, this writer in Brooklyn that, like it's always, because we all think that writing is such an interesting thing to write about. Right. But in this case, that works really well. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I hadn't thought of that.
I just put things together. That's all I do over here.
As you take a celebratory sip.
Just a little sip.
By the way, that design right there is Abyssinian Kiosk. Cirroc's sister does it. Yeah. We'll put the website in the description box below. All kinds of really cool East African designs. Awesome stuff. Really, really good stuff. I've also got a shirt similar in design to that. That design is called the Sisko Kid. No relation.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe some.
A little bit.
Oh, so we're out of time. We got like 1 minute left, but I did want to say very quickly that this was an episode where everything is changing because, like we said, nothing major happened, but internally, this was an episode that's kind of remixing the ingredients in the mixing bowl or something like that. You have Sisko's goatee, which is like changing his physicality at the same time as his character is changing. We have Jake's writing, which is finally coming out and changing what that character is going to be. We have Sisko's possible love interest popping up. I put her, quickly abbreviated as KY, and then I was like, I better just say Cassidy. Yeah. And I'm like, I can't, like, I just gotta write the whole name out. And this is already on top of the fact that Nog, just a few episodes ago, is going to Starfleet Academy. Keiko and Molly are on Bajor. Michael Eddington is the security liaison on the station. They've got the Defiant recently. There's new hostilities between the Defiant, the Cardassians, Romulans. Like, really, everything is like this melting pot of the last few episodes that's getting ready to really explode in the next 4 seasons and few episodes. Really cool. Anyway, we do have to run into the free-for-all where we're going to talk about this way more. But very quickly, special thanks to Carmen Shamwell, PJ Thomas, TJ Jackson Bay, Bill Victor Arukin, Yvette Blackman, Dennis Koch, Homer Frizzell, Eve England, Anne-Marie Siegel, Titus Moeller, Tim Baum, Mohammed Noor, Susan V. Gruner, and Rex A. Wood. We'll see you on the other side on the 7th Rule.
What's up, Skillet?
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the 7th Rule. This is the free-for-all with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
Mr. Timothy Baum is here, TJ Jackson Bay, Dr. Mohammed Noor, Susan Gruner, PhD, Commander Homer Frizzell, Titus Moeller, Malissa Longo, and Eve England out in Wales. My name is Ryan T. Husk, of course, and this is the free-for-all. How's everybody doing?
Great. Right.
Awesome.
How are you doing?
Awesome. So we got a lot of things to cover here, it seems. First things first, Timothy has a shirt to show us.
Follow your dreams.
Nice.
Thank you, Melissa. And also,
Nice.
Oh.
What's that?
that is the
Oh.
noggin from
Oh.
Thick on Pains,
Yes.
You're gonna make me cry.
Paper Moon, and it's like,
Oh.
I consider him a brother in arms. The character went through combat. I went through combat. And so that's why I ordered it. But he's going to take a prominent place on my desk.
Hey.
So
That's sweet.
And Melissa, can you tell us very quickly, Melissa also sent you the shirt as well that you got from walkingartmadebymelissa.com. We'll include that in the description box below. Check it out, all kinds of amazing stuff. Melissa, do you want to tell us all what the quote on there signifies?
It's the message Aaron would write on all of the photographs and his signature. So follow your dreams was big for him. So he would write follow your dreams on all of his photos at the conventions. And so I took it off a Photoshop and all that jazz, and then painted it onto a screen, and then put it, transferred it to a t-shirt.
Looks like you're also wearing another Aaron quote on your shirt.
Yeah, this was a shirt we sold at conventions. It only takes an hour and a half. So it's the question that Aaron would get asked the most, how long his makeup took. So his makeup artist got it down to about an hour and a half. So
that's actually impressive.
yeah.
An hour and a half for all that makeup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Camille. Yeah. So.
Okay.
What's impressive is that he didn't want to answer the question anymore, so he just put a t-shirt and just,
Well,
guys.
What was the
This is
question
the
you got
answer.
asked the most, Cirroc, that you would put on a shirt?
Oh, man. How much did I grow is a big question that I get, How old was I when I started? I think that would be I would get a shirt that says, I was 12 years old. I was 13 years old. Yeah, something like that.
13 years old and 13 inches.
And
Well,
How
it's
much you
funny
grew?
because
How much you grew?
13 and 13, yeah. And it's funny because this episode, I feel like is me getting taller. I feel like I'm taller in this episode.
Agreed.
I did notice that. I think you were
It's
taller than Avery in this episode.
probably the
Right?
tachyons. Yeah.
It's funny because I actually noticed when I was watching it, I was like, I actually put that in my notes that I feel like this was felt like the last episode where you were still a kid. It almost felt like just in that week, you went from a kid to a young adult.
Yeah,
And
I felt the same thing. It's kind of weird too.
As a father, I agree. It's like there's that one point moment where, okay, we have one last weekend together, Dad, and then I'm moving on.
Yeah.
And that was kind of
And
like
he's offering to set up his dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, so here's speaking of that, here's the question for everybody. What's your I know. What's your favorite Jake and Ben moment? Like the best moment or quote or time or episode between Jake Sisko and Commander or Captain Sisko. This one was a really good one, I thought. Let's see. Okay, Muhammad is already nodding, so he knows. He knows. He's got it ready.
I was thinking about the basically the final acceptance when Jake was going to be dating the Dabo girl. I felt like there was this, he got basically Ben Sisko got over himself and said, all right, this can be okay. And I figured that was very heartwarming. I don't know if that was the best moment, but it's one that popped in my head.
Right, that's a great one with Marta.
Dabo girls often pop in my head.
Why?
Just flashbacks, that's all.
Oh my gosh.
Speaking of Dabo girls, we did have our very first Lita sighting as well, if I remember correctly. So
You do.
that was a Dabo girl related thing as well. Susan, do you have a favorite Jake and Ben Sisko moment?
There's too many. I could start right from the very beginning, the first episode. We talked about this maybe 2 weeks ago. I think it's important in any first episode that you grab the viewer, and they're in a hollow suite. Jake is fishing with his little pants on. I can't seem to forget. I just thought that father-son moment was so great. He's a widow with a small child about to go to a space station. I just thought that was great. I really believed that. That's one thing I love about Star Trek. I call it believable fantasy. I really believe that they were father and son. You guys acted like you had known each other for years. And it was very heartwarming. I loved that scene.
Yeah.
He
I
touches
remember
you a lot on the show.
He touches me a lot, and then he puts his arm over my shoulder as we're walking out of the program. I remember that because it was like I felt comfortable with him as well, So
how long had you known him before you filmed that scene?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. I was just getting to know him at that point. I met him in the final audition, and we just met, so I didn't really get to know him.
I guess that's the thing about a good actor, because you acted like he was your dad.
Yeah, he did a lot to get to know me too, though. So it was like he got to know my mom, who was on the set a lot with me at the time, and so once he started to get comfortable with her, that let down my defenses, and I got more comfortable around him because my mom was happy around him, and they're having a conversation. So it just kind of gradually happened during the beginning in that pilot episode, though. That was the beginning of us working together and spending time together.
Awesome. Good question, Susan.
Yeah.
Eve England, how is Wales, by the way?
Yeah, it's good. We've actually had a very sunny week.
Wow.
Made the most out of that until it starts raining again. So I was suspecting that's probably the last of our summer, but it's nice. Yeah, it was nice. And went into the office today, which was very strange, but yeah, all good here. Yeah, really good.
Everybody was giving you compliments on your Defiant shirt today before we hit record. Do you have a favorite
sweet.
Ben and Jake moment?
I mean, I echo what Susan said, really. I mean, I can't think of any specific ones, but I think it was very refreshing to have this father-son relationship, which was a really positive one. I mean, it's a bit of a, you know, I know it's been said so many times about the relationship, and that in itself, it was just such a lovely thing to see. And I think seeing their relationship develop over, you know, the seasons as well, and how, you know, you go through from a child right the way through, and, you know, going your own ways and having your own different interests. And I think that's the special part of it, really, is the development, it's the whole relationship as you go through. And I think, to me, that's the special thing, rather than any particular moment, even though there are obviously so many of them.
Right.
You know, this episode particularly was a really nice episode, and I really like sort of some of the humor as well was good.
Right. Cirroc, it's been said before, but bears repeating, and I don't think you get tired of hearing it, right?
No, I don't. I think it's great. It's what we set out to do, and it's actually what naturally happened as we started working together. We just became closer and closer, and that's why it works, because it was real. It wasn't really acting. It was just you know, capturing a real feelings between two people. So that's what made it special.
Yeah, and that's
really
so
cool.
awesome, isn't it, the whole time. So yeah.
Mr. Tim Baum out in, I guess, Vasquez Rocks or whatever.
No, actually, you're looking at Western Afghanistan, where I was stationed. On the other side of the mountains is Iran, continuing the world tour behind me, but yes.
Wow.
Do you have a favorite Ben and Jake moment?
Absolutely, because it was the time when Jake was moving out, and, you know, I think Sisko thought he was moving next door and he's moving the other side. And then, you know, Avery's going like, okay, so I can count on 2 dinners a night. And it actually brought back memories when I rewatched it, because back in 2013, I missed my son's graduation of high school when I was in Afghanistan, but I got back in time to load up the car and take him up, you know, 100 miles to university. And I'm like, oh, I can't wait to come up here and spend time with you. And he's like, Dad, here's the rules. University, you can come up once every 2 weeks. Like, so actually that, you know, because I don't remember that episode when it was first on, but I remember when I came back and rewatched it, I'm like, that's exactly what my son said. It's like, you can come up at certain times, but you need to call first. And so, you know, that, and on the way home, I was listening to Cats in the Cradle.
Perfect. Aww. Of course you were.
I was like, sorry, Dad, I don't have time for you.
You see, Eve, Cats in the Cradle is an American song from the 70s. Or late 60s?
70s. Harry Chapin.
Yeah. Well, this is it. TJ Jackson Bay. By the way, let's tease. TJ Jackson Bay has an Enterprise thing to tell us at the end of this. But first, how do you feel about your favorite Ben and Jake moment?
Well, I first feel obligated to say that, Tim, we'll get together then, and you know we'll have a good time then.
Go. Perfect. I know where you live, TJ. So
yes, come on up to Missouri. Okay, Ben and Jake moments. It's really hard to pick one, because Ben and Jake's relationship is really one of the reasons that I love DS9 so much, was their relationship. Because at the time when it aired, and even in the years following, you know, it's something I felt a really personal connection to, that relationship, and watching them be father and son. But, you know, if I had to pick and highlight a couple of moments, it would be incidents like the time when Jake was trying to go along on Defiant missions because he's a reporter.
Mm-hmm.
And Sisko, is trying to protect his son. Like, I don't want you, in this war zone. And I can't remember what episode it was, and it might have happened more than once, where Jake said, "Okay, if I can't go on the Defiant, I'm sure General Martok would let me go on his ship." and Ben's like, "Okay, come on." And then I would absolutely be remiss, and I hope I'm not stealing this answer from anybody else, but I will just say The Visitor and leave it with that.
Right.
Oh, outstanding.
I was waiting for that one. That's a big one.
Yep. Thanks, TJ.
So, Commander Homer Frizzell.
Another one.
See, that's why I didn't go into any specifics. You can still claim that one as long as you give me information.
Susan, let's hear your other one to give Homer a second to recuperate because he was going to be next.
Yeah, take another one away from me.
I don't know if it can be considered a father-son together moment. I can't remember the name of the episode. I'm not good with stuff like that. I know what's in every episode. I'm just not great at what actor was in the show. It's the episode where Nog quits school and Jake is late for dinner and Sisko has to go find him, and they're in some, I forget where there's storage of something, and Jake is teaching Nog how to read.
Right.
And Commander Sisko walks into that room and he sees the two of them and he realizes what a great kid he has.
Maybe second season?
Yeah.
I think it was.
I remember what episode it was.
Maybe even first. I'm not sure.
Maybe first season.
Yeah.
It was even first season.
Could have been. Well, Homer, what do you think? Do you have a...
Well, as everyone says, there are a lot of great moments. And you've pretty much mentioned all of them. No, just kidding. I do like the fishing scene, and that sets the stage so well. And then even within this episode, you get that Jake is becoming a man, and he's going to be more of an equal and not just in height with his father. And so there's this, how do you know about this stuff? You don't know about this. And he's talking about, oh no, I can't talk about that, as though he had been on missions with the Maquis. And he got his father, I think, for the first time in the show to, what's going on with my son? And so it's a gotcha moment, but it's kind of, it's, I like that one a lot. And then this episode, I mean, it's very nautical, of course. They're in their ship, and I go on, or have been on, a sailboat with my wife and her parents and her sister, and you see this sort of teamwork, and the directions are called out, okay, coming about, and all this stuff, and you see them working together as a team. And in this case, it's just two people, but they're working so well together. So I like that moment for different reasons. So I'll stick with this episode, and I'll stick with primarily the Maquis, but I also like that he was offering to set up Sisko with who we will eventually learn is Cassidy Yates.
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler.
Hey, I think it's okay.
What's the window? 25 years? Is that okay?
Is it? Then I'm on the cusp. I'm not sure on which side.
That was my guess. It was one of my guess. I wasn't sure, but I'm messing with you.
Well, Malissa Longo, do you have a favorite Jake and Ben, the adventures of Jake and Ben moment?
Well, I'm going to echo what pretty much everyone has said. There are so many great moments. I was going to mention the Jake teaching Nog to read moment, and then also The Visitor is an episode that I cry through every time I see it. The thing that I love about their relationship is that from day one, as everyone has pretty much mentioned, I believed the relationship. There was never a moment in all 7 years that I didn't believe that Ben was Jake's father.
Right.
And I loved that they learned from each other. There were teaching moments for both Ben and for Jake. Like the episode where Nog wants the girl to chew his food for her, and so, Ben was like, well, that's a growing moment, because he acknowledges the cultural differences between, the Ferengi and humans, but he also acknowledges that this is a special friendship that you can't just throw away over a bad date. So, little things like that throughout all 7 seasons. And I love that there is that journey of Jake becoming, a young man, from, a child to a young man. And that's an honest journey too. So there's so many wonderful nuggets throughout all 7 seasons. So I don't think there's a favorite.
Yeah, that time when Nog had the girl chew his food or whatever it was, and then Commander Sisko at the time kind of turned Jake around and said, well, maybe you just don't understand their culture. I remember we were talking about that. For me, that was maybe the biggest time that Star Trek surprised me, where I was like, I didn't see that coming, to where he just, and he kind of was, he was telling Jake the lesson, but really he was telling all of us the lesson, as is good writing. That was a really good moment. Good thinking. I hadn't thought of that one. Titus, where are you, by the way? Are you floating around in Middle America somewhere?
Yeah, I'm in Farmville, Virginia.
That's not too much Middle America. Do you have a favorite Ben and Jake moment?
Yeah, I was thinking about it. Honestly, I meant to watch this Explorers last night. I'm sad I didn't, because it probably actually was in the episode. The whole episode I consider really a series classic. And but a couple other independent moments come to mind. To echo what TJ said, of course, The Visitor is amazing, and I often think about the moment towards the very end when Sisko successfully dodges the bolt or whatever it was in engineering on the Defiant, and looks at his son and just realizes. I always thought that was an amazing moment, because he's looking at this little boy once again, who he had just seen as an old man, and realizing what's inside of him. Just how much he loves his father, and how much he was willing to sacrifice for him. And of course Jake in the moment is oblivious, because he doesn't all that's transpired, but his dad knows. And I always thought that was an amazing moment, just understanding all that Jake did to get his dad back. Mm-hmm. So that's definitely one that jumps out to me. And then also in the cards, knowing all that Jake did to bring about that final scene. I really love that send off. Right before the executive producer credits come up, you have that great speech where Sisko leaves you with maybe the real explanation is as simple as something my father taught me a long time ago. Even in the darkest of moments, you can always find something that'll make you smile. And he's embracing Jake right at that moment in a big hug, and I thought that's what Jake was going for the whole time, and it was an awesome finish.
Wow, good stuff.
That is good stuff.
I think we got everybody right. You guys all kind of moved around on me in the picture, so I kind of lost my place.
I think we have you and Cirroc.
Yeah. Okay. I'll throw one real quick. And Cirroc, you kind of touched on it, which made me think about it. I think it was not just how believable you guys were as father and son, but how believable you guys made it with your additional actors' choices. And you touched on it when you said in that first episode, he's got his arm around you, you felt comfortable. And you also said during the audition, I think you said before that he told you to give you a hug during the second audition or the
No, I actually gave him a hug by just my own instinct told me to give him a hug.
Right. And those were these little things where he would touch you in these ways that make him a more convincing father. And he was able to do that because, like you said, he did the work ahead of time. Actors always have to prepare. They always have to do the work. And he had to make sure that you guys were comfortable together, that you guys knew each other, that you were friendly. I mean, he would kiss your head. And that might seem like a small thing, but like, not every actor is going to kiss some other actor's head because we're like, I don't know where your head's been. I don't know you, man. I don't know who you are. That's a very intimate thing that you do with your children. You know what I mean? And he would go that extra mile, and you would put your arm around him, or sometimes when he'd be jostling around, he'd give you a couple little pushes or whatever. And those little things, whether we realize it or not, when we're watching it, that's what makes him your dad and you his son in a way that it is very believable and natural and loving and playful, you know?
Was Jaco something that somebody came up with? Did a writer come up with that, or was that an accident? Where
that actually is a great question, and I want to say that I believe Avery came up with that himself as a nickname. Jaco. Yeah,
I love that.
That's him playing. That's him playing with my name and just coming up with his own.
Ad-libbed that, right?
Yeah.
That's really cool.
That is cool.
Well, Cirroc, do you want to tell us what the correct answer is that we've all guessed? No, I mean just your favorite.
No, there is no correct answer. It's just really the intimate moments where you get to see somebody's bond and the love that you have. For me, it's like it could be any hug that in all the show. Any hug that we had was really meant a lot for me because it was a genuine hug and you could feel the love there. I also was thinking about the documentary in which Ira was able to get some bonus footage that was kind of edited out, the outtakes of DS9. And one of those outtakes was a scene where Avery and I were laughing, and we couldn't stop laughing because sometimes sometimes actors just get the giggles, and you can't get it out. You just have to work it out because there's something there in that moment where you just can't keep a straight face. And Avery and I were going through that a little bit of a moment right there, and I'm so glad that Ira was able to find the outtakes and have that on film because those are the moments that weren't on camera. Those are the moments that didn't get printed or not in the episodes. Those are the moments that are in between the takes and in between the lunch breaks. And there's a whole bunch of those moments, and they were all kind of fun like that. That was the kind of fun we would have, where it was like we were working together, but it was more than just work. It was actually like kind of playing, and that's what makes it so special for me. I also think about the episode The Visitor, seeing the motion there when he's dying. That was a lot. And, even in this episode, I did like what Homer, when you brought up that I was able to get one over on him, by kind of pretending like I was in the marquee. So, leaving that suspense hanging in the air. But I say all of this to say that, there's still something special there when I interact with Avery and, we talk about this podcast, as a matter of fact, and all of you guys. And, I give them as much explanation as I can about everybody that comes to meet here. And so he said, well, what episode are you going to do? And I said, we're doing Explorers. And he loves this episode as much as I do, because it was just the two of us. And this is a real bonding moment. This is a real father-son kind of, vacation, camping trip, fishing trip, whatever you want to say, but it's just that father-son bonding moment kind of thing. So when we look back on this episode, filming it was a great memory for us, just being in close quarters and having to do this episode on this really elaborate, beautiful, tiny set that they built for this ship. But I told him, I said, we're going to do Explorers and, and talk about this episode. And he said, you know what? I think I'll call in. And I said, oh, well, I have to give you the link and everything. And then he said, no, I'm not calling in. And he got me the same way that I got him.
Yeah, I think you just got all of us, too. Everybody got quiet.
Yeah, right.
We're like,
well, I thought it was too. And he got me, too, the same way, I got him in this particular episode. So it's still a back and forth between us. It's still kind of, it's just a playful, fun relationship. And, I just wanted to share that with you guys. And I hope he's not mad that I talked about our conversation, but it's just an indicative of the kind of relationship and how it's carried on to this day. And the love that we've been able to nurture and develop over these years is really priceless for me. That's the thing that I walk away and treasure the most out of my time on DS9. Is just being able to have these kinds of close-knitted relationships. Aron Eisenberg, all of us are just such a close family, and that's what I walk away with the most. It's that bond that you can never really take that away. It's the same bond that you have, like I said, when you're fighting in wars or you go to school together and you have these kinds of experiences going to school together. It's just experiencing something as a group. Sports, for example, brings that same kind of bond between people. Athletics, it's just you look back and it's such great memories. So that's all I have to say about that. There's too many moments for me to count, and they continue to be created for me. So I love that part of it.
Awesome.
Here.
So guys, we are just about out of time. We're going to go overtime, but Mohammed, I know you have to run right now. So if you got to cut out, feel free. We're going to go overtime because we owe TJ Jackson Bay a few minutes.
I got to go too. I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you very much, Titus. Thank you very much, Mohammed.
Thank you, Titus.
See you soon, guys.
Bye, Mohammed.
Love you both. See you soon.
Bye-bye. Great to see y'all.
Bye.
And I want to have the floor if I can.
Yeah, sure. We'll do what is it related to?
Aaron.
Okay.
My retirement.
Then we'll do you first, and then we'll do TJ since it's still related to Deep Space Nine here.
Okay.
Sorry, TJ.
No worries. When it's about Aaron, I'm ready. So.
All right.
No, the reason why I use this background, which was my forward operating base for where I spent a year in 2013. And when I got back, I rewatched DS9, and two of the episodes that meant a lot to me was AAR 558 and Under a Paper Moon. And it's ironic, or maybe it's kismet, that earlier today in the mail, I received my official retirement notice from the U.S. Navy, and I also received Nog. And I so identified with him after watching the episodes. And I think we've talked about this before, because he really hated when people said, "You're a hero." No, I'm not a hero. I was doing my job. And it's really kind of cool that both of them showed up at the same time.
Yeah.
Wow.
In addition to
Congratulations on that.
Yeah, we've been waiting.
I know you've been waiting on that.
Well, yeah, I keep trying to show it, but with the green screen. But that's Department of the Navy saying that I'm retired.
Yes. Congratulations. All right.
Can you give us? Can you read us the first line or two?
Yes, because I won't show. There's some personal information but no, it says per references Alpha and Bravo, the Chief of Navy Personnel approved your request and authorized your transfer to reserve status effective 1 August 2020. So
That's awesome.
I'm done.
Nice. So you don't have to shave that beard then.
No. I may have to trim it for the next anniversary, like I did this last one. But
okay. Congratulations.
Melissa, any thoughts on that?
Congratulations.
No, and Aron meant, I mean, his depiction of Nog meant so much to me in that 6th and 7th season that, I mean, I still watch Paper Moon over and over again. Because my love of that music, the 60s Rat Pack music, when I got back, if I had a holosuite to go to disappear into, it would have been Vic Fontaine's.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, I love that. And I know Avery hated it because that time of the year, or that period of time, blacks weren't allowed in it, which we saw later. But, you know, Vic Fontaine, I still listen to his music all the time. You know, Jimmy Darren. So that's the biggest reason I got involved in this podcast, was because of Nog. So
that's really
what
cool,
are the
man.
chances? You've been waiting for this letter for I don't know how long. And it comes the same time that the Nog comes. I mean,
well,
that's a sign, right?
Well, no, what's funny is because, like, you know, I mentioned earlier, it's like we've been staying at a hotel because now the well's fixed. But I got a phone call. I was going out to lunch on Tuesday, and I pulled in the parking spot, and I got a phone call, and it's like from a first class Navy. She's like, "You're officially retired. We're sending out the documents." And I got to be honest, I kind of sat in the parking lot. It's like, it's over. I spent a lifetime in the military. I'm very proud of it. It's something I was good at, but it's over. It's like, I'm almost 60, so it's time for me to, you know, move on to the next phase. But getting that retirement was kind of a goal. Just, I mean, the last couple of years were rough, but.
Well,
So, yeah,
60 isn't that old anymore. It's not like it used to be. 60 is, you know, just the beginning.
Oh, Cirroc, I've got a lot of mileage on me.
You got a whole, you got a whole nother journey in front of you now. You know, 60 used to be a big deal 50 years ago. Now there's people that are 60 that look better than 20-year-olds, that are in better shape or better mentally than the young people.
60's the new 30.
60's the new 30.
I'm 64.
Yeah.
I'm excited about, you know,
you have all this knowledge,
eventually,
all this experience, and wisdom.
Watching Liverpool get a couple more championships.
Yeah.
This guy in Liverpool, it was like Aaron in The Shield, right? Am I right?
Yeah.
This guy in Liverpool, man.
Of course, you know, Aaron,
nice.
yeah, Man City. Okay.
Yeah.
But I like Pep. Pep is cool.
Well, that's the main reason he liked Man City is because he was a huge Pep Guardiola fan. So
I like the fact that both Pep and Jurgen are very dear friends, and they're both cut from the same cloth. They care about the lads. So I love beating Man City, but it's like, you know, Pep is a good guy, so he's a good human.
All right. Before we move to TJ's thing, I have to ask, Eve, what's your favorite football team?
I actually really hate football.
Huh.
Sorry. No,
Our one UK representative.
Good answer.
I will support I supported Wales in the Euros a couple of years ago because it was the first time we'd been in it for 50 years or something crazy. But apart from that, no, I'm a rugby person.
Good,
So,
even better.
yeah.
Good. All right. Well, as advertised, TJ, unless we start talking about the League of Six in rugby or whatever, then we better get to Enterprise and your thoughts on a specific subject.
Okay.
Shadow play.
Stormfront, everybody's
Stormfront.
favorite two-parter.
Ooh.
So, last week I think we mentioned it. It got a mention, and me being the devil's advocate said I got to defend this thing. And the funny thing is, I started off with devil's advocate, but after the process, like I actually appreciate the episode. So I made a little bit of a list here of things to appreciate about it. First one at the top of the list, that was the first thing that popped in my head, is Golden Brooks. Like, what an awesome guest star. She's not even in prosthetics. It's awesome. It's like the crossover episode everybody wished for in 2000 between Enterprise and Girlfriends.
Golden Brooks from Girlfriends, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Cirroc's like, all right, I'm listening.
Yeah.
Hey, keep going. I love it.
I mean, that's
great.
number one, and she's awesome.
That's good
She's
enough.
awesome in here.
so
Number two, you got German tanks rolling up Flatbush in Brooklyn. Number three is they play Billie Holiday just to piss off the Germans.
Yeah. I love Billie
Holiday.
Yeah.
Number four, Silix saves Trip's life in the shuttle bay. And to me, I think Silix was the best written character in this episode. We learn so much more about Silix than we have in the whole first 3 seasons of Enterprise. But unfortunately, it was part of the trope of character development before death.
Right.
Because, spoiler alert, he doesn't make it.
Oh, no.
Number 5, the Germans want to send Negroes back to Africa. That's not so much a highlight as just a thing that grabbed my ear. Number 6, Archer is talking trash while he's dissolving in a beam out. That was pretty cool. Number 7, T'Pol's facial expressions were epic in this episode, such as when she heard the Suliban life signs on the shuttle, and when she sees Captain Archer, who they all thought was dead, like her face is priceless. Like, oh my God, you're standing right here. Then there's another character that got some okay development in this episode, and that was the villain, Vosk, who, they ended up playing as a 2-dimensional villain, but I think if he were ever really flashed out, would have been a really good villain, better than Shadow Guy for sure. He's a charismatic leader, and he delivers this line: "You fight to control nations. We dominate entire worlds. We extend our will across time." Yeah, he could have been a good one. And I think when he gave that speech, he destroyed any German notion of being the master race.
Yes.
Okay.
Number 2, Silix saves Trip's life again. Yeah, he leaves his ass behind in Germany or in that building or whatever, but he hit him pretty good so that he was able to get away. Also, Silix played a good Trip when he was mimicking Trip. He acted like he was surprised to see Archer alive, and not only that, when Archer told him to go back to the ship, he's like, "No, you're coming with us." Let's see, number 3, Silix back kicks Archer in sickbay. That was pretty good.
Nice.
Number 4, Silix conversation with Archer while they were working together, I thought was pretty good. Again, it was good character development, but it told us a lot about Silix and him being willing to set aside their differences because he wasn't ordered to harm anybody, so he didn't. Let's see, I'm gonna butcher some names here. Christopher Niami as the German general. I think the general did a pretty good job of demanding that equipment for Germany,
Right.
for the fatherland. There we go. I got, okay, this one I'm really gonna mess up. Steve Sharippa as Carmine, the Sopranos guy. I thought he did pretty good. I enjoyed seeing his character. It was funny when Silix and Carmine were arguing. I like that Alicia Travers, who was Golden Brooks's character, was willing to back up Archer in front of the mob guys. Let's see. Oh yeah, Carmine, while they were assaulting the facility, straight up shoots a guy in the throat. That was pretty awesome.
Pretty hardcore.
Also, Silix wears a Freddy Krueger style polo sweater. That was pretty good. Also, while they're working together, there's another trope. The Archer doesn't give him a weapon. So, like, whenever the good guys and the bad guys team up, they never give the bad guy a weapon for some reason.
Yeah, for some reason.
For some reason. Let's see. Yeah. Also, you got turboprops airplanes assaulting Enterprise with rapid fire pulse plasma cannons. So I guess turboprops produce enough power for that. That's pretty cool. There's one thing I found that I didn't know when I went to IMDb to look for to make sure I spelled the actors' names right and stuff. There are a list of historical credits. Actually, where it first got my attention towards the close of the episode is when the timeline is fixing itself. I saw the Twin Towers at 9/11 in that scene, and I never realized that was in Star Trek. But also, there was a lot of other scenes playing while that happened, and all of those are credited. All of the historical figures are credited on IMDb. I mean, we're talking about they even have a freaking Osama bin Laden, but you got both Bushes, the Clintons, Nelson Mandela is credited in this episode as appearing as themselves because of that scene, and I thought that was pretty interesting. And I don't think I've ever even heard that mentioned, that all of those people are credited as themselves in this episode. Yeah. It's pretty cool. And the first thing that got my attention, I was like, oh, they did an homage to 9/11 here. And the last thing is when it's all said and done and they get back, the fleet welcomes Enterprise home as heroes. That was pretty cool. I actually like this episode now.
Well, I think you converted a lot of people. And you piqued Susan's interest.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's really good stuff. Sadly, we are out of time, but that was extremely comprehensive and convincing.
Did you draw any pictures? That was the question, really. I think.
I am not the type of artist that can produce artwork that anybody else would appreciate. That's what I'm trying to make it.
Okay. All right. Well, next time send me
I can draw.
I'll help you out.
Okay. I can draw you a happy tree, though.
It's a nice happy tree next to a happy river. That's a Bob Ross thing for those of you in the UK. He was an old hippie guy with an afro in the 70s who would teach us all to draw. And he would make happy trees. Anyway, we got to run. Thank you guys for joining us. TJ, Homer, Susan, Tim, Eve, and Melissa. We'll see you guys all next time, everybody at home. And always remember the 7th rule.